Welcome to Wolf's Watch. We have a special guest today, the co-founder of Cheneaux Coffee Roasters. I am sitting here enjoying a cup of, I did a pour over of Joker's Point blend. That is what got this started, and I'm just going to bring him right in. We've got with us today, Dave Go. Am I pronouncing your name right, Dave? Dave Go? Dave
Gough.
Gough?
Yeah,
Gough. I am so sorry. I can't believe I'm.
No worries.
Thanks for joining us, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I love this. I got my Joker's Point blend. Some mutual friends of ours sent this to me, and I reached out to Dave and said, "Hey, I want to let's talk coffee. One of my favorite topics, and it is good coffee."
Yeah, thank you.
How did you? And I understand this was one of your first roasts. How did that come about?
Yeah, so that Joker Point blend is the first blend that we put together. We'd been messing around with roasting on a real small scale, kind of just honestly just in the garage. And when we moved up to the Cheneaux Islands, we started to really conceptualize kind of this small business idea. And so we're messing around with lots of different origin roasts and whatnot. And we live on just this beautiful little peninsula smack dab in the heart of the Cheneaux Islands. And the point that we live on is called Joker's Point. And so once we landed on oh, we like the taste of this roast, what the heck are we going to call it? It just seemed to be a natural fit to name it after the point that we had, recently moved to. So doesn't have a lot of significance to many other people outside of the Cheneaux Islands, but has a lot of significance to us.
Sure. Absolutely. And the Cheneaux Islands is a beautiful area. Now, as you're watching this, if you're not familiar with the Cheneaux Islands, this is northern Michigan, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan on the north shore of Lake Huron.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful area.
Yeah.
I have a lot of great memories of fishing vacations with my parents there in the summer times.
Yeah, it's a pretty special area. I didn't grow up here, but I grew up vacationing here. It was my family's annual camping trip. And so largely fishing trips 1 week a year. And I just fell in love with the area at a young age. So just very fortunate to be able to live and work here now.
Yes. And I'm futzing around here in the background. I want to share a map real quick for our audience so they can see. So this is where we're talking about. This is the northern peninsula of Michigan. I'm going to zoom out. Kind of see the relationships. It's really close to Canada as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Because right? This is Canada. This is the line, the international border right here.
Yep.
And the islands are in this area. So zoom back in. Thank you, Google Maps. Holy cow! 30 years ago, couldn't imagine doing something like this.
Yeah.
Get the satellite view to see the green.
Yeah. So there's 36 islands.
36. Wow.
Yeah. Kind of on this stretch of 12 miles of shoreline, like you said, Jeff, on the northern shores of Lake Huron. And so if you were to be blindfolded and helicoptered into the Cheneaux Islands, you'd unblindfold and probably think you're on the coast of Maine. It's like topographically, it's very, very similar to Maine. So lots of cedar and pine trees and huge boulders, and it's got a long, rich tradition of wooden boat craftsmanship. And so it's the host of still, I believe, the country's largest wooden boat show every single summer. Some of the shores are dotted with these 100-year-old boathouses that are just majestic, right? So it's
yes.
It still brings a smile to my face when I talk about, like, oh my gosh, I live here. So yeah.
Well, on that boat show, I was there for the first boat show.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah. So our mutual friend, Steve Dresbach, now Steve and Mary Dresbach.
Yep.
I remember working that boat show with him and the Murtaugh family when they had a lot of the Chris Craft restorations at that time. And I came back for the 20th of that. And I was just astounded at how, because there were, I don't know, 20, 30 boats. It was a good show at the first one. And then to come back and and see, it's really become an international boat show
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
thousands of people showing up. It was amazing.
It's one of the biggest influxes of like money into the economy in this very small rural part of
Hmm.
Peninsula Michigan. So it's 2 years ago they ended up canceling it because of the pandemic, and
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
like big thing, right? But had it again last year, and I think there are now it averages about 125 boats. So it's yeah, it's just super cool.
The big tall. What do they call it? Tall ship,
All ships, yeah.
sailing ship. Comes up from is it Chicago or Detroit? Sails all the way up to the Great Lakes. Is
Yeah.
a regular.
Yeah, there are a
It's
couple
like
Great Lakes tall ships now plying the waters up here, and I don't think you and I talked about this collaboration that we did, Jeff. But
no,
there,
we didn't.
there was a 78-foot wooden schooner built on Drummond Island a couple summers ago. It actually took multiple years to build this, but hand built by Captain Hugh Covert and his wife Julie, and a bunch of their friends, pitched in and did this. And so their Drummond Island is just like 25 miles, by water from us, and it's right on the border of Canadian waters. Just another beautiful area. So they built this 78-foot wooden schooner tall ship with the idea of we want to make a floating bed and breakfast. And so they reached out to us and said,
Wow.
we need coffee to serve on our tall ship. So we did this collaboration, and
Hmm.
they said the one rule, if you will, that we have is whatever we land on, it has to be called the Huron Jewel Blend. And so that quickly became like neck and neck with Joker Point. Those two are our top sellers by far. And so the bag of that one has a line drawing of the Huron Jewel schooner on it, and some people I think just buy it because like they like how the bag looks, Uh,
Well, presentation is a big part of it, right?
but it looks cool.
Hey, our mutual friend Mary Schoberg Dressback has joined us.
Awesome. Hi, Mary.
She's saying hello. Hey, Mary, thanks for being part of the conversation. Because Mary and Steve Dresback had shipped me that's how I got the Joker's Point blend.
Yeah.
And that's what led to this conversation. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I was really, if we could sidebar just for a second, Dave,
Yeah.
I was not aware when we first talked. I was not aware that of how close of a connection you had with Steve and Mary.
Yeah. 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 We moved up to the Lake Cheneaux Island area when our kids were in high school. We've got 4 kids, and so our oldest, Jonah, was just starting his senior year when we moved up here, and then our triplets were starting 10th grade, and so
Triplets.
yeah,
Did I hear that right? Triplets?
yeah, right, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So their first summer, working up here, Jonah and 2 of the Sam and Landon from the triplet set all got summer jobs at Cedarville Marine, and Steve Dresback just took all 3 of them under his wing and just treated them so well, and has gotten to know them really well. Jonah now works full time at Cedarville Marine, and worked under kind of the tutelage of Steve his first couple of years there, and Steve just talks about Jonah and the rest of our kids is kind of his own, right? I mean, Steve and Mary are just those type of people where you get to know them and they just become family right away. So yeah, we owe a lot to Steve in terms of just taking our kids brand new, landed in this new area, and the way that that they've treated our kids has just been wonderful. So.
And the interesting thing is I had heard part of the story about Jonah from the other side through Steve and Mary.
Oh, yeah.
And how impressed Steve was with him and working with him and taking him under his wing, helping him with his career, mentoring him
Yeah.
with his career as a Mercury Marine master mechanic along the same path that Steve had followed. And growing up, I had because I've known Steve since way probably before I got into double digits
Back
of
in the
age.
yeah.
Way back in the day, way back. And I had a similar experience. He's got that kind of heart for
Yeah.
people. It took me under his wing, learned a lot from him, and had such a huge impact on the arc of my life. And
Yeah.
Mary and I have been friends since we were teenagers. We've known each other forever, and has been a good friend and part of, again, part of the arc of my life. And to meet people like that along the way that are willing to help others and just have a heart for it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And, my wife commented on that because Steve and Mary and my wife and I got together last November. And, Steve was just on our way back. We're driving back to Los Angeles from Phoenix, where we hung out with them for a while. And, my wife was just talking about, it's just so much fun to hang out with them. It's just charming people. It's such a great heart and enjoy being around them.
Yeah.
And then to have a chance to meet you and go, yeah, as soon as you mentioned Jonah, I'm going, oh my gosh, you're Jonah's dad. It was like, I felt like we'd known each other for a long time.
Steve doesn't know it, but he's got a little bit of like rock star status here in this small neck of the woods. So I was bringing my daughter home from college. She had just a little extended break this past week, and we're driving into our hometown, and this Jeep is coming the other way, and I'm just driving. I'm not paying attention. And all of a sudden, Lauren said, "Oh my gosh, that was Steve Dresbach." She doesn't know Steve real well, other than in the coffee shop. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, there he is."
I love it. I love it. Well earned. It's well earned. I was still thinking about the boat show.
Yeah.
In Joker's Point Blend, it seemed that there was you mentioned, the long history of wooden boats in the Les Cheneaux Island area. And that's true for Joker's Point specifically as well, isn't it? Wasn't there a story about how Joker's Point got its name?
Yeah. I'd forgotten we talked about that. So back in I wish I knew the exact date, late 1800s, one of the first kind of founding commercial fishermen, the name of his wooden fishing vessel was the Joker. And it was actually during a winter storm. There weren't big dry docks back then to keep these boats in out of the elements in the winter, and so they stayed in year round. And so as typical of this area, this big winter storm blows in, and there was quite a bit of ice apparently on the lakes already, and the Joker just took a beating. It ended up sinking off of Joker Point. That's where he had the boat moored. And so, it sunk right off the point where we now call home. And so, just this long tradition of wooden boats in the area. And Jen and I just kind of have a passion for the history of that. Hearing that story that this big wooden vessel sank at right off the shore where we live really was kind of significant in helping us come up with the name of that first coffee blend. So
that's a great story.
Yeah.
Wow. Sank the ship. Point gets and the ice is just incredible. I've been in the area a couple times in the past during the winter, and it's just unbelievable how to see water freeze sometimes 3-4 feet thick.
It was
winter.
Solid 3 feet of ice this winter.
Wow.
Matter of fact, there are still kind of some diehard ice fisher men and women out fishing in the island still.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And it's April
5, and there's still people out ice fishing. So
Dang.
What's crazy about it is these are, it's set right off Lake Huron, which is this huge body of fresh water. And there's just these 5 Great Lakes are all connected to this big seaway, right? So international workers come in and out of here all the time. So this current is constantly flowing in these Great Lakes, and it's not uncommon. Like we can stand it and look out the water in mid-February, and if a big storm blows up, all these waves just crash and break the ice. So I totally understand now how a wooden fishing vessel could have just gotten thrashed and went down. It's kind of like the Edmund Fitzgerald on a much smaller scale.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. It's just I remember watching a couple of scuba divers taking the temperature out in the bay near Hessel
Yeah.
to decide what gear to put on. And they turned and looked at me and they go, I was a teenager at the time. And they go, you swim in this? And I go, yeah. And they go, without a wetsuit? And I go, yeah. Why? And I go, because it's 55 degrees. It's like, well, that would explain why my lips would be purple after about a half an hour of swimming.
Yeah, it never really even gets warm in July.
But so that's a great story behind the first blend.
Yeah.
Great story behind the blend
Yeah.
that you created
Yeah.
for the ship that became a bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
But how in starting the company, something we'd had an opportunity to talk about pre-show was you're still involved in education.
Yeah. Yep.
As part of this. So you're very common on the entrepreneurial path that there's multiple things going on, or you start a business while you're still working at something else.
Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about that experience and how that's been? It's always a big challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And it continues to be. So long story short, Jen and I, since we were early, married, had kind of this dream of owning a business together. And we were never really sure exactly what that business would be. We'd come up with these ideas, and a couple months would go by and another idea would come up. But over, this span of multiple years, that conversation kind of kept circling back to coffee. Wouldn't it be cool to have a coffee shop? And then back in, I don't know, right around 2002, we got real serious about purchasing an existing coffee shop down in West Michigan where we were living at the time. And triplets were a year. We had 4 kids under 2 year or 2.5 years old, and
Wow.
life was just kind of getting in the way of really getting serious about starting a business. But that conversation just continued. It continued to kind of seep into our lives. And when we moved to our current location in the Cheneaux Islands, I was still working full time. My job is really what brought me here, or brought us, me and my family here. But we had this opportunity to kind of reset and say, all right, what do we really want to do? And that conversation about starting a small business kind of re-entered, came back onto the table. And we'd started messing around with roasting, just in the garage and kind of playing around with that. And so we said, let's give this a shot. We kind of had a sense that there was a need for a coffee shop in the area. I mean, every small town deserves a coffee shop, right?
Sure. And well, and in that whole area, there was never a coffee cafe, coffee shop type of environment.
Yeah. So we invested in this bigger kind of commercial coffee roaster, and just said, if we're going to do this, let's just do this. So we started roasting and started, selling at the local farmers market on Sundays, and
Oh,
people,
wow.
yeah.
So that's before you had your cafe area that you have now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sundays we'd show up, we'd schlep our some pots of brewed coffee and whatever, retail bags we were able to muster up a few days before, and just started talking to people about coffee, and a lot of the locals started asking, like, you're going to start a coffee shop? And so there just seemed to be, over time, this interest. And so after about a year of selling at the farmers market, we said, let's give this a shot. and someone reached out to us. Actually, the lady who was running the Chamber of Commerce in this small town said, "I know of a gentleman who owns this building. He's looking for tenants. Put us in contact." And one thing led to another. So
Nice.
we end up starting this tiny little coffee shop. And Jeff, I mean, the Lake Cheneaux is year round, 2,000 residents, and you
Yeah.
know 10 times that in the summer with all the tourists. But
So
um,
even with 20,000 in the summertime, it's still,
still small,
if
right?
you're watching this and you live in any kind of major metropolitan area, it's still 20,000 people disappear into the area.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
It's
it's amazing. It's still a wonderful,
yeah, yeah. So
wonderful environment. I get the picture in my head and there's just no way I can describe it.
no, no. So yeah, I'm working full time,
Mhm.
still in public education, and so Jen runs the cafe. I do all the roasting weekends, evenings, so it's kind of this crazy passion that you have. So many days you ask yourself, I'm roasting at 11:30 at night, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But I think just the love of coffee and the kind of fulfilling this dream that Jen and I have had for so long of starting this business. It's just it's made it very gratifying, even the long hours, and it's not taking a check from the business.
Mhm.
It's just you do it because you care about it. Um, One of our goals in creating a cafe was to feel like we're part of a community.
Right.
When we live downstate, much larger suburban area, and
Now, was that like the Lansing area or
Holland area, yeah, right along the Lake Michigan shoreline, Holland,
okay.
um, just west of Grand Rapids.
Wow, so you moved from like almost the extreme southwest part of the state to
Yeah,
the extreme northeast part.
yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, um, so yeah, it's I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, I wanted because being part of a community,
Yeah.
which you are,
Okay.
and that whole concept of being able, having a place to hang out,
Yeah.
enjoy a cup of coffee. Joker's Roast makes a great pour over, by the way. It was the first time I've done a pour over
Oh, awesome.
with with the Joker's Roast blend.
Yeah.
Uh, Great place to hang out. What was also something that we had talked about was how you and Jen are very dedicated to giving back to the community as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, almost to a T, Jeff, when we were talking to local residents when we were selling at the farmers market, when we would talk about a potential cafe and ask them, what would you like to see if something like that were in the area? And to a T, people said, we want to see a year-round business. uh, Lachino Islands, just like a lot of small touristy towns, a lot of businesses are just seasonal, right? So they're open 3-4 months a year, and then boarded up windows the rest of the year. And a lot of the locals said, we just need more year-round businesses. And so we committed to, when we opened, we said, through thick or thin, good and bad times, if that's what the community's asking for, that's what we're going to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's, I think, one thing that we've really learned through this, is just how critical it is to listen to kind of your stakeholders, right? Um, we
Yes.
might have an idea of, we want to do coffee as a business, but if if our vision is to have the doors open, 2 days a week or 3 months out of the year, and the community is saying, that's not what we want, not going to be real successful. So, um,
Hmm.
we found we did a lot of listening, a lot of asking questions, um, and not being from the area. It's one of the challenges was, you got to break into the community, right?
Yes.
And almost kind of become part of, or one of the community. And we're finding we've moved to various places throughout our life, and some communities are easier than others to kind of break into, if you will. And so I think we benefited from starting out really small at a farmer's market, talking to people, asking questions, listening, and I think what we've been able to do is kind of fill this need that's been in the community. Um, a lot of people said, I want a place to be able to go to meet with friends or to have a small business meeting that's not a bar and not a church. Those are really the
Mhm.
two establishments that are, you know, kind of open and available.
Right. Well, and especially in an area that has such a huge tourism influx, right? 'Cause it's 10 times the population between Memorial Day and Labor Day,
Right,
and
exactly.
then and businesses respond to that, and having businesses that support the community outside of just it's not designed just for the tourists
Right.
makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, we're having fun with it. Um, it's we're both just really passionate about coffee and
Mhm.
it's not just about brewing a good cup of coffee, but
Yes, and before I think I know where you're going, and I got a question related to that, but it's just
yeah,
to be respectful of your time, and as you're watching this, to be
yeah,
respectful of your time too. It's top of the hour, and I had promised that I'd keep on track time-wise. Have you got time to go another 10, 15 minutes?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Super. And you were beginning to talk about how you and Jen are focused on, giving back to the community and using business as a way of being able to contribute.
Yeah, yeah. So we were able to um, give back to we donate to our local food pantry. Not
Mhm.
only just kind of cash donations, but there's a big need for food in the area and even to be able to say here's 30 bags of coffee, right? Make sure people have access to that as well. And but we look kind of broader scope as well in terms of giving back. And so we really work hard to source our coffees and teas as
Mhm.
ethically as we can.
Oh, you've expanded into tea as well.
We have, yeah, yeah. um 2020 we were able to purchase a small tea business that was started by two Lebanese immigrant, two cousins.
Mhm.
And life was taking them in paths kind of away from each other and away from the business. One had just gotten a professorship at Columbia University and had moved to New York
Wow.
City, and then Ali and Ali's wife had a medically fragile baby, and so they were in
Mm.
a position to they needed to walk away from the business. We'd been carrying their teas and selling them in our cafe since they had started, and just gotten to
Okay.
know both Ali and Saad quite well, and so they reached out and said, "Hey, we've got to sell our business. We think your social vision, fits well." And so, long story short, we were able to purchase their business in 2020, and so they started that business with a vision of being able to provide money for educating refugee children. Both of them, both Ali and Saad had immigrated from Lebanon when they were young kids, and so Jen and I committed when we agreed you know to buy that business. We said that absolutely fits our social mission as well, and so we continue to donate 10% of retail and wholesale sales on an annual basis to the International Rescue Committee, and earmark those dollars for education programs for refugee children. So something we're really proud to continue. And then
Absolutely.
yeah, we work really hard to source ethically. Also,
Mhm.
there are there's gender inequities in a lot of industry sectors in America and across the world. Pay discrepancies are clearly documented. In America, right? Men get paid for the same job more than women in so many sectors. But within the coffee industry, that gender and pay inequity is magnified significantly. So in coffee, the vast majority of the hard physical labor is performed by women, and but their pay is significantly less than men who work in coffee. So we work hard to support what are called women producer programs. So for example, when we source our coffees in Guatemala and in Sumatra, we buy from women producer programs. So those are coffee beans that come from really small shareholder farms that are 100% owned and operated by women. We pay a higher premium for those beans, which helps to provide women coffee farmers with a higher salary. So, things, even what seem like small things, we feel strongly just benefit everyone. Um,
Yes. Well, and it has such a huge impact on those families.
yeah, absolutely.
Those it's a small family business in another country that's really struggling, and
Yeah.
every bit counts. Every
Yep.
dollar, every cent counts, and it sets up a. I've been amazed at some of the stories I've heard from those countries of how just even one small family business like that can create a chain reaction that's very positive
Yeah.
in their community.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
each business supports multiple other people outside of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's if you really think about it, like, this world's much more connected than we realize, right? And
Mhm.
like you said, one little impact by us deciding to pay more for coffee beans, that's helping, families in another country support their families, maybe be able to afford to hire someone else on, and provide a job. So yeah,
Mhm.
we feel fortunate to be able to do what we love to do and be able to have, even just a small impact on our community and communities far from us.
Mhm. Absolutely. I started my career in manufacturing, and depending on who's, I'm just because of that, I'm familiar with these numbers. Depending on whose analysis you looked at,
Yeah.
every manufacturing job supported 4 to 7 other jobs
Wow. Yeah.
in the local community and in the supply chain for them. So it's just running a business, being an entrepreneur has such a massive positive impact
Yeah.
on the communities that you're involved in.
Yeah, we never realized that. We don't have business backgrounds. We just had this passion and dream and kind of wrestling our way through it.
Mhm.
Um, had no idea the positive impact that a small coffee shop could have on this small community, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the most gratifying things for us, is to have people, repeat customers come in and say, like, we were closed last week, spring break week here, in this town, very small town, empties out, right? And so we just close during that week each year. And to have people come back today, our first open day back in over a week, and say, "Oh my gosh, we missed we missed you guys. Glad you're open again." It's to feel like you're adding value in a community, I think, has been the most gratifying thing for us.
Yes. So much more, right? Entrepreneurship, founding a business like you and Jen did is about so much more
Yeah,
than just the business itself.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Well said.
It's great. It's great to see, in to contribute so much to the community, the being involved. So is that part of the when you source your coffee beans, is that part of the fair trade programs?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
goes even beyond that?
we get as often as we can coffees that have Fair Trade International
Mhm.
certifications or USDA organic certifications. Um, the fair trade and women producer ones are especially important to us, just to try to combat just the inequities that are so pervasive in the coffee industry. Um, eh,
Yeah, because some of the countries that we get our coffee beans from, and many people may not think about this when they drink a cup of coffee. Some of that to get to that cup, sometimes those beans can come from places where their policies and their practices would horrify people
yeah, yeah,
in
absolutely.
terms of how the workers are especially the women are
Yeah,
treated,
Yeah.
to pay attention to that in terms of where, how you connect to the supply chain, how, MBA terms, and we hear in the media a lot, talking about, oh, supply chain. Well, supply chain can mean a group of women that are working for starvation wages
Yeah.
on some hillside 12 hours a day
That's totally.
under physically brutal circumstances.
Yeah, it's totally it. Yeah, yeah. I wish I would have. I keep that when I'm roasting. I keep this little jar next to the roaster, because when I drop the roasted beans and they're cooling down in this big cooling tray, they're spinning around, and I'm looking for kind of foreign objects in there, and it's not uncommon to find um, rocks, small stones, but what I found most interesting is I find, particularly from Guatemala, and a couple of other kind of Central America, South American countries, I find these big nuggets of corn, and
Wow.
when I first started finding those, I'm like, what in the heck? But it makes total sense. They are
Yeah.
trekking up into these steep mountainsides and hand picking these coffee cherries. And the only way they get that product down off the mountainside is to put them in these burlap bags and strap them on horse and donkeys' backs. And so that corn is being fed to, the donkeys and horses, and some of it ends up in the coffee beans that I end up buying. And that's always just a reminder to me, like this humbling reminder, like, man, that cup of coffee you're able to buy at your local coffee shop comes from a lot of hard work and sweat and um, you know, poor conditions, right?
Hmm.
People often ask, why does a cup of coffee cost $2.50? If you were to link that story back from your cup of coffee to where
Yeah.
how that coffee originated, there are a lot of people struggling out there to produce what we enjoy so much, and they get paid very little to do it. So
Mm, so true. And you're helping to change that one cup of coffee at a time.
cup of coffee at a time, it's
Well, that's not, you know what? That's not necessarily true. It's not on the coffee side. You're helping change that one bag of beans at a time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Excellent. Wow. What an incredible story.
Thank you.
I'm watching the time. We could go. I'm guessing we could probably go for another hour and a half and
Yeah,
still just barely scratch the surface.
probably.
But, so you've also established a very successful internet presence for your
Yeah,
business. Has that really expanded your reach in terms of being able to connect with customers
it
and
really has, Jeff. Yeah, we started when we launched the cafe. We started kind of built. Jen built a website with a template and um,
I'm gonna see if I can succeed, if I can not
get it up there. Yeah,
succeed in getting your homepage back up again, because it's just such a great shot of the area.
yeah. So we had no idea what to expect. Like, who's gonna know about Lational Coffee Roasters if you don't live in the community, right? And
Hmm.
the internet really is an amazing thing. Social media. It's so we now we ship all over the country. It's really blown us away. It's we will get an order in, and like, how did they find out about us?
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a website, um, where you can learn a little bit about us and kind of our business philosophy, if you will. Order
Hmm.
merch and coffee and tea off of there, and then we've got an Instagram and a Facebook handle, I guess it is, page. Jen does all that stuff. Um, but that's been fascinating for like new small business owners, what impact social media and the web has had
Hmm.
on literally millions of small businesses, right? It's
Yes.
particularly during the pandemic when we were having to close our doors, we couldn't have customers in. The online sales is really what kept us afloat. We were
Mm,
shocked at the amount of the sheer percent increase in our online orders. Um, so yeah, real grateful for that.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that that helped keep you afloat. It's interesting that so many people are finding you online because they're not as fortunate to have mutual friends like I did,
Yeah,
like
right.
Steve and Mary Dresback that say, hey, they shipped out some coffee and go, you got to try this.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the Dresbacks. It all circles right back around, doesn't it? It's
It does.
great people, and that's one of the things that we really enjoyed about coffee is coffee's like a human interaction type of product, right? It's many of
Hmm.
us get our
Yeah.
go and drink it at our desk and whatnot, but it really just draws people together, and it really does kind of create community. Um, so it's to kind of circle back to Steve and Mary in the conversation is just a good reminder to me that what we're able to call as a job really it's really just about people and relationships and community and you know
It is such a social experience. Coffee and tea are such a social experience because we either gather around the water, around the coffee maker,
mhm.
or making a hot cup of tea gives a chance to socialize in work environments, but also the cafe space
Yep, yep,
to either hold a business meeting or socialize and hang out and have hot beverage and maybe something a little to nosh on,
yeah, yeah,
but also the social experience and impact when you were talking about how you source the beans,
hmm,
reaching all the way across continents
yeah,
to improve their social experience where they're running local businesses, local women-owned businesses
right, yeah,
to grow and pick beans.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's even though I grew up kind of hanging out in coffee shops, I don't think I really had this full realization of what a social business coffee is.
Hmm.
It really defines for a lot of people kind of their social outings. Jen and I, when we were dating, even when for a lot of years when we were married and had young kids and were able to get a rare kind of afternoon out of the house, we went to coffee shops, you know, and yeah, I think a lot of people do. So yeah, again, we just feel really pretty fortunate to be able to do what we're passionate about, have an impact. And we've created just so many cool relationships with people who just walk in off the street you've never met before, but over a cup of coffee, we've met some really, really just awesome people.
Yes. Well, I'm glad we had an opportunity to meet
Like,
over a cup of coffee
yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah.
I'm really enjoying this Joker's blend.
Thank you. I'm glad you did a
Joker's
pour.
Point blend. Make sure I get that right.
I'm glad you did
So,
pour over. Yeah.
what else is happening with your business? Are you expanding it? You've got the coffee, you've expanded into tea.
Yeah.
You've got a great line of merch available through
Yeah.
your website. What else is happening with the business? Anything new coming up?
Yeah. So working on a couple new roasts. I'm working on it's easy to get in kind of a rut, right? I've got 10
Yeah.
roasts that I do and
Wow, 10? That's quite a
can
bit.
kind of do it in my sleep a little bit now, I've got those dialed in, but uh, just not wanting to get kind of stale, if you will. I'm working on a couple new rows, hoping to roll out another blend or two this summer. So we'll have some new fresh coffees rolling out here fairly soon. We're looking for ways to just kind of expand our reach. We've got a monthly coffee subscription program that's fairly
Okay.
new, so people can order and say, "I want a bag of this every month," or "I want 4 bags of you pick for me." Roaster's choice. Send me 4 bags a month, type of thing. And then we do some wholesale roasting. So we're going to be roasting for a new coffee shop down in Jackson, Michigan, about 5 hours from us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So yeah, just looking for ways to kind of round out, you know, kind of the overall business. But yeah, just really our focus all along has been kind of keep a razor focus, do something well, and stay true to that. Um, One of the more interesting things I think Jen and I both have noticed as business owners is a lot of people um, have a lot of ideas for you, right? And some of them are great ideas, and some of them are just not great ideas, But
Yeah.
there are a lot of
Yeah.
pressures to, hey, you should do this and you should do that, But rather than chasing all these rabbit holes, we've worked really hard to say, okay, we got into it to do good coffee, and Jen's a fabulous baker, so she does just a small
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like ho- made from scratch, fresh every day pastries,
Oh,
and
oh, you are so making me want to be there to try some of that home baked goods.
the
Oh my
boat
gosh.
shows second Saturday in August this year, Jeff. So there, chance to come back.
Wow. Coffee, tea, home baked, truly home baked snacks.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. We're having fun with it.
good. Good. Dave, so the best place for people to get in touch is through your website?
Yeah, probably our website. Yeah,
National.
LationalCoffeeRoasters.com. Yep, and Instagram and Facebook by that same handle, just at Lational Coffee Roasters. Yeah,
Man, thank you for spending so much time today to chat and talk about the business and the great stories. I really appreciate that. And as you're watching this, if you want a cup of coffee with a conscience that's good coffee that has been sourced in an ethical manner and with an eye towards helping specifically women that are running their own businesses in countries where you don't see that much and they don't really get treated well for that kind of mindset, then reach out to LeCheneauxCoffeeRoasters.com. You're gonna love it. I'm
yeah.
enjoying I have to do it. Enjoying my Joker's Point blend. Thank you, Stephen Mary Dresbach, for that and for connecting me with Dave. Dave, thank you for your time, and
My
look forward to
pleasure.
hearing more good
Thank you
things.
for reaching out and having me on. It's been a blast. Yeah, we could keep talking. It's
Yeah.
full of souls and could keep it going. But yeah, I appreciate the
Well,
time today.
and that leaves the door open for a possibility of doing a follow up down the road.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Maybe we'll do a live stream from your cafe at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
That would be fun.
yeah. Awesome.
Dave, thank you. And thank you as you're watching us for being part of the conversation. We appreciate that. This is live interactive 21st century television, live and interactive. Mary Schoberg Dressback, thank you for being part of the conversation today and being interactive. This is Wolf's Watch. I'm Wolf, and we will see you on the trail.